What's up, everyone? You know, responsive design is essentially a bare necessity for modern web development. Tailwind CSS offers a ton of great options to allow for quick, responsive design, but there are so many it can be hard to know where to start. Well, I'm going to show examples of responsive design in detail using Tailwind CSS in this video. If you'd like to see the code that I use, there's a link to the repo in the description. Now, let's dive in. Tailwind CSS makes it easy to apply responsive design to your website. You simply need to add variants for different breakpoints to your utility classes in order for the changes to apply. Every utility class that Tailwind offers can have a conditional breakpoint applied to it, so you're able to build highly customized and complex responsive layouts without leaving your TSX or HTML files. To get started, you'll want to make sure that the viewport is defined. In my case, and probably yours too, this is done by default. You can see it by going to Inspect Elements and opening your head tag. Then down here you can see the meta name viewport with content width equals device width, initial scale equals 1. If this isn't here in your head tag, you'll want to add it yourself. If you don't do this, the Tailwind utility classes will either not apply at all or won't apply correctly. By default, you have 5 breakpoints available to you. We'll discuss later on how you can add or remove them, or how you can customize the list in general. But for now, you should know that you have these breakpoints available to you. Small, which starts at 40 rem, medium, which starts at 48 rem, large, which starts at 64 rem, extra large, starting at 80 rem, and finally 2XL starting at 96 rem. I'm using rem here because that's how Tailwind defines their breakpoints. We'll talk more about this when we discuss the customization of breakpoints. These breakpoints work for every utility class. This means that you have absolute flexibility for every utility class available to you. I'll show off a few different examples as we go, but please note that I'm not going to hit on every possible utility class and breakpoint possibility. Let's see this in action now. I created a new page.tsx file in a new Next.js route called Tailwind examples and exported our default function called page and returned an empty main tag to work from so we can see all of this working clearly. Inside our main, we'll add a new div, and this div will have the class names of BG Emerald 500, a height of 4 rem, width full, and then here's where our responsive variants come into play. We'll do small, width of 1/2, medium, width of 1/3, large, width 1/4, XL, width 1/8, and finally 2XL, width of 1/16. Inside this div, we'll include a span that says works for every utility class, and here we'll have some class names as well. So the class names will be text emerald 950, text small, padding of 1 rem. Then at our medium screen size, we'll have text gray 600, and again at our medium screen size, text large, medium text center, and medium font bold. Now when we load this up on our front end, we can see all of these utility classes apply at different breakpoints. So if we go super small, we see that our text is not bold, the emerald background takes up the entire screen width, and then we slowly open this up until we hit our small breakpoint, which will then split it in half, and then further to our medium, which then turns our text bold and gray, and shortens our width here, and then we can continue going higher and higher until we see the final breakpoint. Tailwind uses a mobile-first breakpoint system. This means that you want to design your mobile layout without using any breakpoint variants. Utility classes without variants will apply to all screen sizes until overwritten by prefixed utility classes using the same utility class. Because of this, it is considered best practice to start with your mobile design first and then build up from there. For example, you can't use the small variant to target mobile devices because, as we learned earlier, the small variant is for screen sizes of 40 rem or 640 pixels wide and above. So trying to add the small variant to all of your classes will only apply styles above screen sizes of 640 pixels, leaving everything below that unstyled. To see this in action, we'll create a new div with 2 paragraph tags in it. The first paragraph tag will say start with no prefixes for the smallest size, and the second paragraph tag will say then add prefixes to build for bigger screen sizes. This div will have class names of padding of 0.5 rem with flex at the medium screen size with a gap of 4, again at the medium screen size. And then the first paragraph will have class names of text center, and then our last paragraph tag here will have a class name of hidden medium text right medium block. So now this side of our screen being in the medium screen size, when we hit save, we'll see the 2 paragraph tags showing up as flex, but as we go to the smaller screen size, we'll see our text on the right disappear, and we'll see at the smaller screen size the 1 paragraph tag taking up the entire width and being centered instead of being in a flex container. Tailwind CSS provides ways for you to apply utility classes for specific ranges of breakpoints. This comes in handy if you want to apply only a class to a screen size or 2 without unsetting the styles. The default breakpoints apply styles for the screen sizes they define and up. This is the min width. Each of these variants also have a version that applies styles for screen sizes up to a breakpoint variant. This is the max width. So there is max small, max medium, max large, max extra large, and max 2XL. For this example, we'll create a new div, and this div will have a padding of 2. And then we'll create another paragraph tag, which will have the class names of small, max, large, font, bold. And then this paragraph tag will say this won't be bold at the smallest or largest sizes. Now when we save this and we go to the smallest size, it's no longer bold. Now at our small and medium breakpoints, it stays bold until we get up to our large breakpoint where it then removes the bold. Now to set this for just a single breakpoint, we can add another paragraph tag that will say this will only be read at the small breakpoint, and we can add a class name of small, max, medium, text read 700. And now when we do this, it's currently black until we go to the small screen size, where it is now red, until we get to the smallest screen size where it's now black again. If you're enjoying this type of content, please like this video and make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and getting notifications so you never miss when I release a video about Tailwind CSS, Payload CMS, Next.js, and more. Thank you for your support. Now back to it. If you want to change what screen size these breakpoints target, you can do that in your globals.css file. So in our globals.css file, we can add an @theme with a breakpoint. For example, we'll change our breakpoint to small to be 36 rem. Now when we save this and adjust our screen size in Chrome, we can see our pixel width in the top right corner. And we'll see that this will change from black to red before we reach 640 pixels. So here at 576 pixels, our text turns red. We can see this in another example by adding another div with a class name of p2. And we'll add a paragraph tag that will have a class name of small, font bold. And in the paragraph tag, we'll say this will now be bold after 36 rem or 576 pixels. Now if I save this, the text will come in directly as bold, but as soon as I go down 1 pixel, we can see that our text is no longer bold. If you want to define a new breakpoint, you can do that by going back to your globals.css and adding a new breakpoint variable. We'll do something like extra small, and we'll do 30 rem for that. Now, I've been using rem to define the screen sizes because that's how Tailwind sets their default measurements. If you want to use pixels or some other unit of measurement, you can do that, but you'll need to overwrite all 5 default breakpoints to do it. The reason this is done is because Tailwind uses the unit of measurement to sort the breakpoints appropriately. Mixing rem and pixel may result in some wacky behavior. If you want to remove breakpoints, you can do that as well. If you want to remove just one breakpoint, you can set, for example, our breakpoint large to initial. So with this, our large breakpoint no longer exists. That means anything with the large breakpoint in it will no longer work correctly. For example, this won't be bold at the smallest or largest sizes, will no longer be bold at all because it doesn't have the large breakpoint to confine it. You can also remove all breakpoints by using the breakpoint with the wildcard operator and setting it all to initial. Now you would do this if you want to define your own breakpoints. And we can do this very simply by including our own variables here. So we can do one such as tablet, and we can do that at 40 rem. We can do another one of desktop at 80 rem, and one in between with breakpoint laptop, and have that be 64 rem. Now to define this, we're going to go back into our page, and we will add another new div with a class of P2, and we'll include 2 paragraph tags. One will say this now uses our custom breakpoints, and everything previous ignores breakpoint prefixes. This is defined in globals.css, and we can set the class name for this to be tablet text red 400. So now, nothing else is going to change up here. Anything above will no longer take any styles associated with breakpoint variants, but now as we grow our screen and hit the tablet screen size, we can see that our text turns red. We can still use ranges as well, so we're going to create another p tag that says we can still use ranges here. This is also defined in globals.css. And the class name here will be tablet, and then we'll max laptop, and then set text emerald of 400. So now when I save this, we'll see that this will be text color emerald, not at the smallest screen size, but as soon as we hit tablet, until we hit the laptop screen size here. You can also use arbitrary values to define max and min widths by using the max and min variants. You'll use square brackets like all other arbitrary values for variants. You can use advanced CSS features like calc in here as well to create highly customized designs using your own values. Now to show this off, I'll again create another div with the class name of P2, and we can create a paragraph tag that will say this will be bold until 700 pixels. And then for the class name, we'll set it to be max 700 pixels font bold. So now if I save this, we can see that this comes in as a normal font weight, but if I reduce my screen size to be less than 700 pixels, it is now bold and will remain bold all the way to the smallest screen size. Tailwind CSS also supports container queries, which is a modern CSS feature that allows you to style an element based on the size of its parent element, rather than the viewport. This comes in handy if you need components to be highly portable and to have the same internal layout styles regardless of size. Doing this in plain CSS requires defining containers, setting up rules, and then using media queries, which can get quite messy in your CSS files. With Tailwind, you simply mark the container with the class name of @container, and then use the symbol at the beginning of all of your size variants to indicate that you want that style to apply in relation to the element's parent and not the viewport. First, let's set up a new div, and this div will have a class name of P2, just like the rest of them, and we'll include a new paragraph tag that says this is set outside a container, and will switch much later because it's relative to the viewport. And we're doing this to have a baseline. So now we can create another div, and this div will have the class name of @container, and then we'll have bg emerald 950 height auto width full. In this div, we'll have another paragraph tag that will have a class name of text black @xl text amber 50. In the paragraph tag, it'll say this is set within a container and will switch much earlier because it's relative to its container. Now, before we save this, we can also add a new class name to our paragraph tag here that has a background of indigo 950, a height of 16, and at extra large screen size, it'll be text white. Now, of course, before we test this, we need to re-enable all of our breakpoints. So we'll comment out our previous example here. And so here we can see as we load this up that the text color in our BG Emerald 950 container is already not black. And that's because it's relative to its container. Now, if we get this to be smaller, we can see that our text turns black and then immediately turns back to that text amber 50. But it's not until the actual extra large screen size that our indigo background changes to be a white text. We can still use max and min variants as well. We can create another paragraph tag in the same div that we've been working in, and we'll say this is set to be this color until it reaches the max XL container. And the paragraph tag will have the class names of max XL text amber 50. So now we can see that this comes in as black text, but as soon as we get down to an appropriate size, it changes its color to be this amber 50 color. You can even still use ranges. Let's create another paragraph tag where we'll have the tag say we can still use ranges here, and the class name will be @large @max XL, font bold, text white, and the text is white so we can just see the example. When I save this, we can see that it comes in as bold. As we go to the smallest screen size, it's no longer bold, and as soon as we pass the extra large breakpoint, we see that our extra large text change here happens, and this is no longer bold. Nesting containers is as simple as labeling the containers with a slash. For example, we'll create another div inside of our container div. We just need to add the class name of @container internal to make this happen. Now the container sizes are getting really small in relation to one another. So we'll need to make sure that the paragraph tag we use within this container has a really large screen size variant. So now each screen size variant will be preceded by @2xl/internal, and then with the utility class that we want to use. So here, BG amber 50, and then another one @2xl internal text amber 950. And I will include you can nest containers as well as our paragraph text. So here we see that our text is black, but as we grow, we can see that the color and the background has changed. If you don't want the default container breakpoints provided by Tailwind CSS, you can create your own in your theme variables. So over here in our globals.css, we can add a new variable, which we'll call container medium, and we'll change it to 40 rem. So now we can create a new paragraph tag here with a class name of @medium, font bold, and then we can say in the paragraph tag, this should only be bold after 40 rem relative to the container size. This is defined in globals.css. Arbitrary values are also available to you by adding it in square brackets after an @min or @max variant. For example, we'll create another paragraph tag that has class name of @min 700 pixels, and that needs to be in square brackets, and the utility class will be text white. The text within the paragraph will say this is an arbitrary value that applies white text after 700 pixels. When I save this, we'll see that the text is white because we are after 700 pixels. But if we go below 700 pixels, it turns black. With arbitrary values, you'll have the ability to include container query units. These essentially equal 1% of the container's size. So let's create one last div with the class name of container width full bg emerald 500. So now in this div, we're going to include 4 paragraph tags. The first one is just going to say we can set container query units using arbitrary values. The second one will say one container query unit is essentially 1% of the container. Then we'll include one that's just going to be 25% of the container and another that's going to be 33% of the container. The class names here for the first paragraph tag are going to be bg emerald 950 text emerald 50 with a width of an arbitrary value of 50 container query widths. And what this is going to do is we can check over here that the container we just created is shown here, and the paragraph tag we set up takes up 50% of that container. We can see this again in action by adding class names here, where we can have bg amber 950 text amber 50 with a width of 75 container query width, which will then again add this background color to be 75% of the container. Then just to show this a little bit more clearly, we can include this, which is just going to have a bg amber of 950, a text amber 50, and then a width of 25 container query widths. And then this one more time, we'll do class name bg amber 950, text amber 50, width of 33 container query width. Now when we save this, we can see that this paragraph tag takes up 25% of the container width, and then this one down here takes up 33%. This gives you the flexibility to design components with containers without having to calculate concrete values of measurement. There are several options available to you with container query units, like container query width, which we just used, height, inline size, block size, and more. Tailwind makes it easy to create intuitive yet complex responsive designs. You have a wide variety of tools available to you, from default or custom breakpoints to individual units of measurement within containers. The options are limitless. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with others who might also find it useful. Check to make sure you're subscribed to my channel and receiving notifications so you never miss when I release more content around Tailwind CSS, Payload CMS, Next.js, and more. If you have suggestions or questions, please leave those in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.